So check this out. I had this made on Amazon. This is really cool. It's not centered perfectly, but I think they did it to get the figure here in the picture. But that figure is actually my brother, and he came over to Corpus Christi and went fishing, and I snapped this really cool picture, and I overlaid it with this really cool Rules of RV Life, and I had it done on Amazon. I forgot how much I paid. I think it was like 30 bucks, but that is very, very cool. And I think it really summarizes the point of RVing, and I was able to use a picture that I had. Turned out really good. What do you think? So a viewer sent me a very interesting question, and one that I thought was worth addressing in a video about owning an RV and how much money you might want to invest into it. So hang tight, I'll be right back. Alright, so I've made plenty of videos on, I guess, similar topics, but nothing kind of addressing this specific topic. A lot of folks want to know how much is too much to put into an RV after you've purchased the RV. So let's say you're going out and you've found your dream RV, and it's a $50,000 RV, a $40,000 travel trailer, you know, whatever you've determined to be the best floor plan, layout, and style for your specific needs. And the next question is, you know, after watching all these YouTube channels and seeing all the upgrades and components that people put on their RVs, how much is too much? Should you put another $5,000 into your RV in terms of upgrades? Should you put another $10,000 into it? What is the point at which you say, I'm putting way too much into something that's a depreciating asset? I basically have a product that's not gaining value, but I'm adding stuff to it. And at what point does that become a bad investment? So I want to try to tackle that question because it's certainly an interesting one. And I think more than anything, it really varies depending on the person, the family, and the specific use application for the RV. So if you have a family that plans on taking an RV out all the time, basically every weekend, or spending a significant amount of time in the RV, and I can't make that definition because there are a lot of folks who, if they can get away once a year and they can spend a month in their RV, that's a significant amount of time to them. Where other folks might think a significant amount of time is full-time living in an RV. So it's going to vary based on family, based on how you perceive how much time you spend in your RV and how you use your RV. All of those factors are going to determine how much you value your specific RV. If you see it more as an asset because of what it's providing you in terms of family time, relaxation, getaway time, or if you see it more as a depreciating asset where it's kind of the thing sitting there in your yard or on your driveway or in a storage facility, and you're like, man, we never get the value we want out of this thing. It just isn't doing what we thought it was going to do for us. So again, you have to ask yourself that question. Then you can make a determination on how much is too much or too little to put into your RV. Like one thing you see me point out in a lot of my RV review videos is the fact that I talk a lot about the RV suspension. I talk about the tires. I don't really focus on the wheels as much, but I do focus on the wheels, tires, suspension, axles, things like that, because you know, that's the part connecting you to the ground, and you want to make sure that you're using quality components. Well, I think most people know by now, if you've watched my channel for any amount of time, when I do travel trailer reviews, only about 5% of them have any type of upgraded suspension work done. They don't have upgraded suspension components such as your shackle straps, your equalizer, or even your tires. And to me, those are some of the most important things that should be upgraded first, simply because, again, they will give you the peace of mind, or at least more peace of mind, in knowing that you at least have quality components down there that are designed to help dampen and take some of the road abuse that the factory stuff might not be able to, or might not be able to take as well. Now, for the most part, the equipment that comes on RVs is reasonably good. When I say reasonably good, it's designed to be able to handle smooth roads. It's designed to be able to handle, you know, typical interstates and highways that don't have a lot of potholes in them, that don't have a lot of rough terrain. But I think we all know that's not typically where people take their RVs. You might transit over those types of roads to get where you're going. However, you're likely going to encounter rougher roads whenever you get to where you're going to be. And that's going to be the dirt roads, the caliche roads, the pothole roads, the things that you have to take your RV over to get to your specific campsite. Not all the time, but sometimes. So I focus a lot on that. And I oftentimes say, you know what, that's a good area to invest a couple $1,000s into. Better tires, better suspension components, upgraded suspension components that give you some type of dampening, because anytime you can reduce some of that road vibration transfer into the chassis of your RV, just think about how much better the interior components of your RV are going to hold up altogether. For instance, if you balance your tires, if you put better tires, if you have a suspension equalizer, if you reduce the amount of vibration and road chatter into the chassis of your RV by 40 to 50%, imagine how much longer your RV is going to last. Imagine all the screws that aren't going to back out, or the tacks and nails that aren't going to work themselves loose. So again, when I talk about upgrades, I think $2,000 worth of upgrades on a $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 RV really isn't asking a lot. It's basically saying, you know what, this is an area that you might want to invest a little bit more, just so you have an opportunity to have a safer, smoother towing experience. And the other side of this is oftentimes you can sell the components that you remove and recoup some of that cost. So even if you can sell all 4 tires and you can sell the old components to somebody else with maybe an older travel trailer that, you know, these are brand new components that they can put on, you might be able to get $500 or $600 out of them, or maybe even more, which means that, you know, you've only spent maybe $1,500 or less. That's one area, and that's what I kind of talk about. Always try to recoup cost where you can. Other areas that people consider upgrading would be like a solar system. How much of a solar system do you need to install or want to install in your specific RV? Are you looking at doing a lot of boondocking or dry camping? Or is it just simply something you want to add in the event that you are going to be doing boondocking or dry camping? So solar can add up very quickly depending on what you're trying to accomplish. I think a point I made in the video that we did, where we did the collaboration with the NRVTA, Go Power, and eTrailer, we did approximately, I'm going to say it was meant to be $6,000 to $7,000 worth of equipment upgrades, but it ended up being closer to about $8,000 simply because we opted for the second 250 amp hour battery, which definitely drove the price up a little higher than we had planned. But that being said, a system like that is a good intermediate system that gives us the capability of powering at least one air conditioner for, you know, a small amount of time, which might be perfect for what a lot of people are looking for in terms of solar. But again, keep in mind, we're talking $8,000 if you can install it yourself. You're talking closer to $10,000 to $12,000 if you need to get someone else to come out and install it in terms of labor fee plus all the equipment. So really quickly, you're talking maybe a third or more of the cost of your RV just in solar. And you have to make that determination on if it's worth it to you. You have to determine on if this type of system is something that's going to bring value to you. It'll certainly raise the resale value of just about any RV you put it on, but you're never going to recoup anywhere near what you paid for the system or the equipment on it. So this is, again, one of those areas that you have to make a judgment call and determine if it's worth adding that type of money to your RV. At the end of the day, it is entirely up to you in terms of what you value as additional upgrades to your RV, and if you think they're worth it. It's entirely up to you to determine if, you know, you want to put $50,000 into a $50,000 RV, simply because most of the folks who are willing to put that type of money into their RV are going to use it in a fashion that they feel is going to bring some of that value back. I don't think most people out there are dumb enough just to dump money into something, no practical reason or use for the things that they've spent that money on. The goal is that you put things into your RV that are going to bring you some level of usage or value. And I believe for the most part, people who do that have an understanding that, you know, if I'm going to put $10,000 or $20,000 into an RV that cost me $30,000, that stuff is stuff that I really want, stuff that I really need, and stuff that's going to bring us extra usage out of our RV or more convenience. People do it with vehicles all the time. You know, you can see trucks driving by you all day long that are probably worth $50,000, $60,000 or even $20,000 or $30,000, and all of a sudden they add a $7,000 lift kit, or they put $20,000 into the engine, or they, you know, put some custom paint job that cost $8,000 on it. So there's always going to be people who splurge on things that they find value in that you may not, or that you find value in that other people may not. And it's not really up to anyone else to make that determination. Because if you spend the money that you work for on some type of an upgrade in your RV, and you feel that that's value, you feel that you're getting something that's going to help you have a better experience or use your RV more or in a better way, then really all you need to be concerned about is if it's financially feasible for you, if it's financially feasible for your income or for your financial situation. If you don't have any problem doing it, it makes sense to you and it's not putting you in a bind or a pinch, or it's not putting you in a situation to where you are going to have buyer's remorse or buyer's regret later, then I feel that it's still worth it. Because again, value is in the eye of the beholder. Value is something that you can't put on what somebody else owns, simply because that other person sees value in different ways. Some people view the RVing experience in itself as value. And if that's the case, then just like a pencil, it's going to wear out eventually, but you're still going to use it until it wears out, and that's the value you get out of it. So I hope this whole video makes sense. Again, it was to address a very, very pertinent question, and that is, how much money should I dump into my RV? You dump as much into your RV as you can feasibly afford and justify without putting you in a financial pinch, but understanding that everything you put into it should bring you value, and it should bring you some level of satisfaction that you now have that thing that you've installed, whether it's suspension upgrades, whether it's solar, or whether it's, paint job. All those things can bring value to you, whereas somebody else might look at it and say, I don't know why you did that. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.